this is your war dispatch on day 3 of the Iran-U.S. conflict. What began as a direct American strike on Iran has now morphed into something much bigger. This is no longer a contained confrontation. It is widening, it is spreading, and it is pulling in multiple countries across the Middle East. Lebanon, Iraq, Kuwait, Turkey, Oman, Cyprus, Gulf states, tensions are rising across the map. But the most important development today, Iran's so-called axis of resistance has picked up arms. Let's start with Lebanon. Iran's closest armed ally there, Hezbollah, launched rockets and drones at an Israeli military base near Haifa. Hezbollah said that the strike was retaliation for the killing of Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and framed it as a defensive action in defense of Lebanon. Now, within hours, Israel responded. Israeli jets bombed Beirut's southern suburbs, a Hezbollah stronghold. The signal from Israel was blunt. If Hezbollah joins the war, Lebanon will bear the consequences. But here's the bigger picture. This is not just Israel versus Hezbollah. Hezbollah is part of what Iran calls the axis of resistance, a network of aligned armed groups stretching across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and beyond. Now, for years, Iran has used these forces to pressure Israel and the U.S. without entering direct war. Now, that doctrine is now shifting because the U.S. is no longer fighting indirectly, it has struck Iran directly. Now, that means Iran's proxies are now being activated, not quietly, not strategically, but openly. We saw that in Iraq as well. Iran-backed Shiite militias claimed at least 16 drone attacks in a single day. 2 bases housing Iraqi security forces, including the Basra Operations Command and Imam Ali base in Dhikar, were hit. Drones were intercepted near the American consulate in Iraqi Kurdistan. Now, this is escalation by design. Iran cannot match U.S. conventional military power head to head, so it widens the battlefield instead. Now, what's the aim there, you'll ask? Stretch American and Israeli resources across multiple fronts, raise the cost, increase unpredictability. Now, day 3 shows us one thing clearly. This war is no longer linear, it is networked. That brings me to the second story. Day 3 also brought a dramatic and deeply worrying development. American fighter jets falling out of the sky. Footage verified by several outlets showed an F-15 fighter jet engulfed in flames before spiraling downward and crashing near Kuwait City. Now, CNN geolocated similar visuals to within roughly 10 kilometers of the Ali Al Salem Air Base, which is a major U.S. military installation. Kuwait's Ministry of Defense later confirmed that several American fighter aircraft had gone down that morning. The exact number, however, is so far unclear. However, officials stated that all crew members survived, successfully ejected, and were taken to the hospital in a stable condition. Now, here's where it gets complicated. Initial reports suggested the possibility of friendly fire, with speculation that a Patriot air defense battery may have mistakenly engaged one of the jets. Now, systems like the Patriot rely on radar and encrypted identification protocols to sort of distinguish friend from foe. But in fast-moving, high-intensity conflict environments, misidentification can happen. Now, while the investigation is ongoing, what this incident underscores is very simple. Now, this war is operating in crowded skies with multiple air defense systems active, raising the risks not just of enemy fire but dangerous miscalculations. The falling U.S. jets came close on heels of the U.S. military reporting its first casualty on Sunday. Since then, 4 U.S. troops have been killed and another 5 seriously wounded in U.S. operations against Iran. U.S. Central Command said several troops suffered minor shrapnel injuries and concussions as well. Now, in a video address, Trump lamented the deaths but admitted that sadly there will likely be more before it ends.
Earlier today, CENTCOM shared the news that 3 U.S. military service members have been killed in action. As one nation, we grieve for the true American patriots who have made the ultimate sacrifice for our nation, even as we continue the righteous mission for which they gave their lives. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is.
And now a diplomatic twist in this war. Donald Trump has expressed disappointment with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer over the UK initially not allowing the United States to use the Diego Garcia air base for strikes on Iran. Now, the Diego Garcia is a remote but strategically critical US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean and has long been a launchpad for American operations in the Middle East. From Iraq to Afghanistan, it has served as a quiet but powerful forward operating hub. Now, reports suggest that when Washington asked access to the base for Iran-linked operations this time around, London hesitated. And that hesitation appears to have frustrated Trump, who publicly expressed his disappointment. Now, why does this matter? Because it reveals that even America's closest allies are calibrating their involvement in this war very carefully. Supporting Washington diplomatically is one thing, but becoming a direct operational launch point for strikes on Iran is quite another. In a widening regional war, alliance unity is critical, and even small cracks, especially between Washington and London, sends a signal. This conflict is not just testing battle lines in the Middle East, it's testing Western alliances too. Now let's talk about the economic front. Iran's biggest leverage is oil. At the center of this is the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway through which nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes. Iran's Revolutionary Guards have effectively threatened passage through this choke point. Now, several ships were attacked over the weekend. International shipping has slowed dramatically. The message from Tehran is simple. If Iran burns, global oil flows burn with it. The ripple effects were immediate. Brent crude jumped nearly 10%, touching above $82 a barrel. Analysts warn that if this conflict drags on, oil could easily cross $100 a barrel. Now there's more. Saudi Arabia's state oil giant Saudi Aramco halted operations at its massive Ras Tanura refinery after a drone strike near the facility. That refinery processes over 500,000 barrels per day. When refineries shut, markets panic. Higher oil prices mean higher transport costs. Higher transport means inflation. Inflation means pressure on global interest rates. Now, in other words, this regional war is now a global economic story. So stay tuned to the War Dispatch from Defense Headquarters every day at the same time, and we'll be bringing you all the happenings that have happened over the last day on the war, making sense of this US-Israel-Iran war that is engulfing the Middle East and really the world.